All right, welcome back. This time around, what we want to do is to introduce to you all the tools and other functions of other functionalities that are available to you in CorelDRAW. So we just want to explore other tools that are available. So what other tools are available? One of the tools that is very, very powerful that you'll be working with, of course, we talked about the introduction to graphics that he said it talks about making do with shapes to create information that works. Okay, and then these shapes actually create communications materials which points or conveys information or conveys knowledge. So that's how it is. Now the element of graphic design doesn't end with playing with shapes, of course, so that means the second thing that we can always introduce to make it cohesive is so that we can balance it to maybe our target audience or people that are working we're trying to reach out to, is to also introduce what we call the text. So this is the text or the type tool. So this is the text or the type tool. What you can do with this text tool is immediately you click on an area or portion, you can start typing. So if I type here graphics design, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just delete this for now so we could focus on how this text tool works, because this by itself, okay, this by itself, it's something really, really deep you need to understand. So this is the text that we've typed graphics. If I click on space, I could type design as well, just like you would normally type with your maybe word processor or something. So that's just exactly what it is. Now if I click on it, like I said, you can actually scale it at the corners and maybe shrink it at the sides. But guess what? For text and pictures, okay, for text and images, please, one of the rules, you should never scale it at the sides. You should never scale or shrink it at the sides. If not, you're going to distress and distort your design. It's not going to look visually appealing. Trust me. Someone took out time to create this font, to spend almost a whole lifetime trying to design a beautiful typeface, and you don't want to distress it. So be very careful, because these things, you're actually committing a type crime. So you have to be very, very careful not to do these things. So don't distress your fonts and don't distress your images. Avoid scaling images and fonts or text at the sides. Only scale it or shrink it at the corners. Okay, so with that said, you can see that as I scale it at the corners, it allows me to either increase the size or decrease it. And as I scale it, you can see how the point size increases. You can see how the point size increases, and you can also see how the point size decreases as I scale it down. Another thing that you can do is you can come in here to this drop down, and at this level you can change the font to whatever it is that you're looking for. Now for the fonts that you want to work with, one of the things that I want to show you is that for every font that you select, it's just like a word processor. It will be showing you 5 most recent fonts and then the general fonts that you're choosing. And then it also shows you a preview of that font over here. So as you can see, so this is as you can see, this is just a script kind of font which we talked about, and it's really, really beautiful. But for the purpose of this class, so that we could see how things interact with each other and see how things makes a little bit sense from the very foundation, we'd just like to stick with the basic font that I believe that everybody will have. And I'll just go ahead and maybe click on Arial, or if not, you go ahead and Arial here, and it gets back to the default. So with this said, why I choose to treat this as a separate model is so that you could enjoy and understand how to interact with text, because combined with shapes and modification of shapes might actually throw you off. So you can have this video to come back to watch, understand how these things work, so you can actually make progress in the course of your design. So what you're going to do is, if you click on it the second time, you can actually modify and you can actually skew. But that's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you something much more than that, so you can understand the beauty of this. With the text tool selected, I could come to the shape tool. Like I said, this shape tool is one of the most powerful tool, and one of the tools that you really, really use. Should be your second best friend or your first best friend with regards this thing. I know that maybe you might have another tool that you might be interested in, but this shape tool by far is one of the most strongest tool and the most powerful tool in CorelDRAW. So this should be your best friend. You should master the tool. You should work with this tool. You'll be working with this tool almost all your life and every time as well. So that's exactly what it is. So the shape tool is very powerful in that it easily modifies. Okay, it's the first modification tool that we have. So we talked about the join tool, and we've talked about maybe the handling tool and the modification tools, but it's the very first. It can also work as a handling tool because we use it to move the corners, but it's always the very first modification tool, and by far the foundational when it comes to modification tools. So what you're going to do is that if you click on the shape tool, it allows you to also transform the text. So transforming the text is that you can actually track, okay, you can track the text, or you bring it back. These are some of the things that you can do. You can actually track the text, and you can see how you track the text. It becomes very, very beautiful depending on what you want to do. And then the second part, you can see that the knob, these control handles here actually directs to the right, and it also directs downward. Okay, so I want to show you the use case of it working downward. So I'm going to go back to my text tool. I'll come back to pick tool and then double click on it. While I double click on it, I'm just going to go ahead and just click on return or enter. So it just gives me 2 lines of text, so you can see how it works. So I'm going to come back to my shape tool, and I'm just going to show you how the lower handle works. So this is how the lower handle works. The bottom handle, it allows you to lead. This process is called leading, all right, in design, where you're trying to bring either the text below to come closer to the text above and all those kind of things. So these are the things that you have to know foundationally regards what regards text and regards modification of text. Now it doesn't end here. If I go on to press Ctrl Q with this text, you see it transforms this text to a path. All right, transform this text to a path and transform this text to a shape. Now, path by means connected lines. You can't really go back to alter the text that you created. With this now, you can actually move into the modification. That's why I said that shape tool, aside from being a handling tool, is also a modification tool. The second function of the shape tool, which I told you the inherent power, the second power, or the second ability, or the inherent power that you've not seen in the shape tool, is the modification tool. That's why I'm telling you that it's a handling tool, and it's also your first modification tool, which you need to understand, which you need to know, which you need to master. So with this said, just like we did in the shape tool, that's why I actually started that way, to teach you regard shapes, so that when we come here, it's something that you understand and like. So with that said, what I can do is I can come here and then start to modify the text however I want, play with the handles, okay, however I want, play with the handles. If I don't want it, I could go ahead and delete it, play with the handles depending on what I'm looking for, and just play with the handles. If it's something that I think I don't want, I could also remove it, and it starts to give me something that I want. Now, what I'm doing right now to zoom in, what I'm doing is, if I'm with my mouse right now, I am actually hitting the scroll wheel, okay, just pulling the scroll wheel in and rolling the scroll wheel backwards. So that's how you typically zoom in and zoom out with your mouse on CorelDRAW. The second way, if you're not with your mouse, is that you can hold on Control or Command and press on the plus sign. That's the plus and the minus. So Control plus to zoom in, Control minus to zoom out. I hope you got that, so you will not be really scared as to what I'm doing, moving in and moving out and stuff like that. The other thing that you can do is that if you hold onto your scroll wheel and press, you can actually pan. That's the process. You can actually pan your workspace to make it centralized regards what you do. The shortcut for panning is you press on H, and then from the H, now you see the pan tool comes out. You can either move you just click and drag. You click it to affect it. All right, so that's exactly what it is. Now the shortcut to return, which is something I would just like to introduce to you. If you press on Control Spacebar, it returns to the pick tool. So it allows you to refresh the tool, and then you can select. For example, now if I was in the pan tool again, okay, I could press on Control Spacebar and it return to the pick tool. Nice, you refresh the tool and give you a fresh tool. All right. So with that said, with the shape tool selected and with the shape selected, these are the things that you can do on the design. And one more time, something else I want to show you so it doesn't bug you off. I'm just going to go ahead and maybe type again graphics design and just show you. I'm going to scale it, and guess what? If I hold on the shift key while scaling, it allows me to scale it proportionally. Like I said, it allows me to scale it proportionally and equally and proportionally. Okay, all right. So one more thing that I wanted to show you was with the shape tool selector. I just wanted to show you that you can either play with this text by either pulling it up, okay, graphics, okay, let me just start that again. You can either play by pulling things up and down, so it creates that interaction for you, so someone could just see how playful some of the things that you want to do. And guess what, you can even move it somewhere. It's amazing. I mean, the tool is amazing, and it creates that interaction and that curiosity in your design. So be free to do a lot of things, but when you want to break rules, have a reason to break the rules, and that's exactly what I wanted to show you. With that said, I just want to introduce you to one more thing with regard to the text tool so you can understand. Another thing that you can do when the text tool is selected, is that you can actually create bounding box. That's bounding box to create paragraph text, to create more like your print newspaper and things like that. You can see that this is where this bounding box works, and you can see that it now tells you that you should type. Now anything that you type, you could see how it's gonna look like in your design. Okay, so if I come into one of my text document here, I can copy this, I can select it, and then copy something, okay, and come back inside the text bounding box and then paste it. Okay, so that's just it. I could come back inside and paste it. So with that said and done, okay, this allows me to work with bulky text, especially for print purposes, so that I could achieve what it is that I am looking for. All right, so I could achieve what it is that I am looking for. So the very final thing that I want to show you is that when you're done with your text, some of the things that you can do when the text area is selected is that you can actually affect the alignment. So this is where you have the alignment button. You can see, like I said, always pay attention as to what's happening on the option toolbar so that you can know. But some of the things that you can do is you can either bold it, or you can either italize it, or you can either underline it. So those things are really basics as to working with your word processor and all those kind of things. The second thing that you can do is that you can also affect the alignment, which is something I just wanted to share with you. Okay, so if you come here and you see the alignment here, you can say, okay, align all center, align to the right, align full justify, and false justify. Please be very careful when you're working with false justify, because it creates it allows you to create all these rivers that makes your design not really pleasing, except you want to create something really outside of the box. But if it's for the purpose of reading, I think you should stick to the 4 that are available here. This is false justify, right, center, left alignment, and you'll be able to still work out what it is that you're doing. Okay, so be very careful. Don't use false justify. There are too many rivers, and I would seriously warn you against working with this. So with that said and done, we are done with understanding how to work with text and how to work with the text tool. On our next class, we'll be looking at other modification and other tools that are available to you on the toolbar section, and then from there we'll now focus on the design proper. So see you in the next video.